This is the hardcore basis of mat work and looking at your goals. So if you have an issue you're dealing with, we'd always want to ask, okay, what's the issue? What's the problem that you would like to resolve? And then we want to ask, and where would you like to be with this problem? Interestingly enough, long before I ever heard of family constellations and structural constellations, I had created a journal exercise that does basically the same thing. It's a three-part exercise where you draw where you're at right now. This is where I was at when I was writing this book, confused and chaos. This is where I wanted to be, with its free-flowing energy in all different colors. And what was the obstacle? Perfectionism. My inner critic. So I drew a picture of the perfectionist, and it looked like a big block of ice that was in my way. And these are all the things that the perfectionist said. You're going to fail, this is no good, do it over, blah, 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 blah. All that mind chatter. So by identifying it, putting words to it, and looking at it, I got to see, oh, that's the problem. And then, of course, when it came time to do that more dialogue work, like the stuff I had done to get through that first block, then I would do more. If the perfectionist was driving me crazy, I'd just go do a dialogue with it and tell it off. And just say, look, will you wait? You can come in when I'm ready to edit. Now, there are books by Bert Hellinger. They're hard to find. They're very expensive. They're published in Europe. But there is a very good introductory book to family constellations called The Healing Power of the Past. And the author's name is Ulsamer, Bertold Ulsamer, U-L-S-A-M-E-R. So if you really want to read a good basic introduction, that's probably the best. And I want to mention another very famous author and scientist, Rupert Sheldrake, is a huge proponent of this work. Rupert is the one that popularized the notion of the 100th monkey, that when one member of a species of animal changes a pattern of eating or breeding or whatever, it happens all over the planet within milliseconds, showing that the mind is not local. That information transfers, if you're on that same wavelength and you're in that species, you're going to pick up that message right now. And so he talks about the morphogenic field, and so does Hellinger. Hellinger has shortened it and calls it the knowing field. So when we're channeling through the body, we're tapping into the knowing field, where all this, and you could call it the Akashic Record if you want. It's the same idea. So all this information is available to us if we know how to channel it. You can channel stuff through your non-dominant hand, through artwork, just the way we did this morning, or you can channel it through your body. And that's what we're going to do this afternoon. And the body doesn't lie. If you get your left brain out of the way, and you know as little about the issue as possible, you can channel the truth. That's why there's not a lot of storytelling. There's not a lot about the whole history of the problem. You know, the problem might be as simple as it was for me. I needed to sell my mother's house. I just said, I need to sell my mother's house. She has a reverse mortgage and I got to sell it. Okay? So I put a mat down for myself. I put a mat down for my goal, which was a sold house, how I would feel when the house was sold, what the obstacles were, which had to do with my own fear. I'd never sold a house before. Maybe it wouldn't sell. Maybe I wouldn't make enough money, blah, 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 blah. What were my assets? My realtor, who I'd already signed on with, and my attorney, who's an old family friend and a brother-in-law. He's married to my childhood friend. He lived in the same neighborhood, so did the realtor. They knew the market. They were totally confident that I would sell right away, etc. I wasn't so confident, but they were. So I got in their mats and I felt their confidence. One at a time. Her mat, his mat. Then I started moving mats around. I could move my mat closer to the goal. because now I could feel their confidence, I could integrate it, internalize it, and work from that. So I started, and I eventually moved the obstacle mat out of the picture. Because by this time, I had worked my way up to the confidence that I needed, and I wasn't there yet. Some time had to go by, and something had to happen, but you know what? The house sold to the first person who looked at it. Wow. Even though it went in and out of escrow, the whole thing happened in 2 months' time. It was amazing. My realtor is still in shock. It was a very slow market 2 years ago. And I made enough profit after I paid the reverse mortgage to pay off my mortgage on my house.
Wow, yeah.
So not only did I not lose money, I made money.
Yeah.
Paid off some debts, paid off my mortgage. Great.
It's just because you got out of your own way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got out of your own way.
Exactly. All my old belief systems and fears and all that stuff got out of the way. But how did I get out of my way? I got out of my way by actually putting myself into a future state of consciousness. And here's the great part. When I was finished cleaning the house, my partner and I were leaving, and I stood out on the mat. It was interesting. It was a mat. The welcome mat. The front porch.
Yeah.
And the plan was, when you're all through cleaning the house, you lock the door and you put the keys in the mailbox for the new owner. And as I closed the door and I looked in that house, it was all clean and clear, I stood on the mat and I said, oh my God, this is exactly how I felt when I stood on that yellow mat that represented the house sold.
Yeah.
And I'm standing on a mat here. This is no coincidence, because I didn't think about it. I was standing on a doormat. No, I just was. I closed the door, I locked it, I put the key in the box, and it was like huge weight lifted off my shoulders. Huge weight. All of the illness that my mother had for 4 years and I was responsible, all of that went gone. House gone, I'm out of here. It was unbelievable. But I had had a preview of coming attractions somatically. I had felt it in my body and in my emotions already. So when I got there, I recognized it. So the question is always, how will you recognize when you have achieved your goal? What will it feel like? How will people view you? What will change in your life? Those are all things that come out of this mat work. Because when you get in that state of consciousness, it's just a matter of time before you achieve it in the outer world. You already found it inside. So it's all an inside job. It doesn't even have to be an obstacle. There are much more open-ended ways to do constellations work with mats. I've done dream work with people, where we take a dream and we put the elements of the dream out on the floor, and the person stands in each element. I've also done constellations that had to do with a creative project. So there's a lot of different ways to work with it. So just use your intuition to come up with, you know, is there something in your life right now that you'd like to look at or resolve?
I think being able to reach people on not just a broad scale, but even in my just one-on-one interactions. Like I feel like I've gotten a lot better about both of those. Like again, on a mass scale, reaching people, and also being able to like empathize and connect better. But I still feel like I have a lot more work to do before I'm relaxed in my role in those two areas.
Okay.
In terms of like connecting.
So 2 areas would be, how would you identify the 2 areas?
Just connecting with people on a broad scale, and then also on like an interpersonal one-on-one.
Okay, so the broad scale, would that be through media or
Probably,
books
yeah.
or whatever?
Yeah,
Okay.
like doing the videos and stuff, like just trying to get what I think is a positive message and positive pieces of information out to the world.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
and whoever's looking for them. And then just on the one-on-one level, again, I've gotten better about it, but just staying engaged and not just hearing what a person's saying, but I find it most impactful when I'm really engaged and can almost feel what they're feeling.
Right.
And like, I'll even have some conversations with people every once in a while where it's like, it's almost as if I was there.
Uh-huh.
And I want to be able to replicate that more because I feel like it just gets me more connected to everybody.
Exactly. So let's take a look at that then, and we'll have you select a map right now for where you're at in communicating one-on-one, and another map with where you communicate media-wise with a larger audience. So where you're at right now, both of those, kind of what you just described.
Okay, so
The one-on-one, and then reaching a larger audience with ideas that you want to disseminate. Okay? And so this is where you're at now. Now, I'd like you to pick two maps, one that represents where you'd like to be in terms of one-on-one communication, how you'd like to feel, and another map for how you'd like to feel about media work and groups and large groups.
okay, one-on-one, and then large
Large
groups.
groups. Okay. So let's put the one-on-one map down for where you're at now, wherever that would be. And this is the larger audience situation. And I'd like you to pick an obstacle, and there might be more than one, but pick one to start with, to achieving your goal here. And now your one-on-one communication goal, how you would like to feel dealing with people one-on-one. And how,
This was the one.
okay. And then how you would like to feel in communicating with groups through media or any other form. And this would be an obstacle that would go anywhere here, and if you need another obstacle map, you can pick it. And I'd like you to pick a resource, one or more, that would help you get through that obstacle. We don't know what it is, we'll find out when you get on it. Okay, so I'd like you to place those anywhere in the knowing field here. These are resources. And you'll notice this is all very intuitive. I mean, there's no way she could know where to place these. It's all internal. I'm not telling her where to put them, and there's no rule about that. So the body is really guiding you, and your intuition is guiding you as to, it's like making a picture of it if you then do a drawing. Your hand gets guided by your intuition. So what I'd like you to do is stand on whichever mat feels right for you in terms of where you're at right now, with either the media and group interactions or the one-on-one.
Intuitively, I wanted to straddle them.
Good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So what happens in your body when you stand on these two mats, one representing one-on-one connections with people and one representing connection with groups, an audience or whatever, media?
I feel a bit of pressure, like in the back of my head, like my neck and my brain, and kind of where those connect. And I feel like almost like from here down is kind of heavy and sludgy in a way, like not very vital. But then from here up is average. It's not like above average, like, or it's not necessarily ideal or optimal, like what I consider ideal or optimal, but it's average, it's normal.
Okay. So there's kind of a heaviness in the lower part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And from that mat, are you aware of any of the other mats on the floor?
Intuitively, I went straight to the purple,
Okay.
the
All right.
light purple.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to that eventually, but it's good information to know that from this place, that mat has something to say to you, and we'll have a chance to speak. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is come off of those mats and come to either of your goal mats for one-on-one or group. And that was the group mat. So what does it feel like to be on that mat, communicating the way you want to with groups in any form, disseminating ideas that you think are really valuable information that's important and valuable for people to have?
I feel really tall, like incredibly tall, like 7 feet tall. But my feet are still like almost like little, I'm picturing cement blocks around each foot, but that, like, I'm a lot taller.
Right. So you're pretty attached to the earth and grounded, but you're really tall and
Yeah, like
reaching up.
I definitely wouldn't fall over. Like I might wobble a bit, but I always have like my cement blocks holding me like to where I won't completely fall off.
Right. So there's some security there in terms of being able to be grounded.
Security is a good word for it.
Right.
Yeah. And then a lot of the sludge that I felt from over there, instead of feeling the pressure back here, it's almost like, it's ironic because one of the vertebrae that I fractured like a while ago, it's almost like my vitality that's helping me shoot up is stemming from that vertebrae, actually. Almost like that's a powerhouse in a way.
It's the old quote, we're stronger in the broken places.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Right. Hemingway. Stronger in the broken places. Great. Okay, and from that mat, are there any mats here that sort of jump out at you?
Both of the light purple and the light green.
Right. Okay. So you relate to the resources.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay, and what about this other mat here? Let's explore that. This has to do with one-on-one communication, connecting with people one-on-one. What happens there in this is your goal of feeling real empathy for people, really being able to relate to them and connect.
Like experience what they experience.
Physically, how does that feel in your body?
Physically, for some reason, it feels like I'm having more weight pulled back towards like my right side, like from my right heel and my right hip, almost like being pulled backwards a little bit. But pretty relaxed. Like I feel like I have better posture here. Like I don't have my cement blocks anymore, like keeping me super steady and grounded, but almost like I don't need them.
You don't need that?
Yeah. It's almost like more of my strength is coming from like my shoulders in a way, instead of my feet this time.
Right. And from that mat, are you aware of any other mats here?
Mainly the light green.
The light green?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you also relate to a resource here?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to step off of that mat and kind of walk around here and go into that obstacle mat. We'll find out what that is. And you can stand facing in any direction that feels right. It's all intuitive. Okay, so when you stand on the obstacle mat, this is the mat that you determined was the obstacle for getting to your goal of really reaching out to people freely and openly and in groups and media and getting ideas out there and connecting with people in a very empathetic way and really connecting with them. This is the obstacle. Do you have any response in your body when you stand in an obstacle to those goals?
I almost feel like I lost my spine, or like it shrunk to spaghetti in a way. Like, it's kind of emotional too. It's weird, like. And so
You've had injury there too, haven't you?
And so maybe part of it's maybe insecurities related to that, because it's when you're really injured, it can be kind of an insecure time in your life. And I'm still coming out of that, but yeah, the sensation was almost like my spine went from being like normal and strong to just like shrinking.
Right. Yeah. So standing in that place must feel very vulnerable for you. And of course that was an injury And it was something that was very difficult and painful for you.
Relatively, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, and I think the injury had a lot of other layers.
Emotional
into
stuff.
it. Yeah, like I was able to clear a lot in the process, but I'm still processing, I'm still clearing, I'm not
Right.
out of it yet. Like
Yeah.
it's still,
Yeah.
yeah.
Probably a very vulnerable child in there who had to deal with that injury.
To some degree, yeah, I guess. I didn't think about that.
And I've been through accidents and injuries, it's really hard. Yeah. You don't have full control of your body and it's painful and it adjusts and it's hard. Are you aware of these resources beside you here?
Yeah, like I'm aware. It's almost like if I really, really reach, my toes can touch them.
Yeah,
like the tips of them, but
you're
I'm not on them.
right, but you're connected to them and you're really aware of it. They're there.
Right.
Yeah, I noticed you stepped right into that configuration.
Yeah, it's like my toes, they
Yeah.
want to be there, they're almost there, but like I'm supposed to be on this mat right
Yeah,
now, so
yeah.
I'm on the mat.
Yeah, it is important to acknowledge that vulnerability and what happened with that injury and everything, how it affected your spine.
Yeah, and apparently more.
Yeah, right. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to step off of this mat and step into each or both of those resource mats.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So what's your sense in your body when you, we don't know what the content of these resources is, but they are resources.
Yeah.
And your vulnerable self is certainly aware of them. And,
Right.
yeah. What happens in your body when you stand on resources that strengthen you and give you?
It's almost like I got the cement blocks back, but instead of being in a more sturdy position, like right underneath me, they're a little bit further out. Like I haven't been able to assimilate them in a way that makes me stronger yet, but I know they're there.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I feel more like security, but instead of, like my spine feels normal again. Not like when I was really tall, but
Right.
definitely not like it shrunk away to nothing.
Right.
So I have more support coming from there again. And then I also was able to get the support of like the blocks around my feet to like keep me
Right.
steady.
And I noticed you're facing this vulnerable part where you felt this one really felt the spine shrinking and all the stuff that happened with the injury and everything.
Yeah.
So it looks like you're able to face that part and to kind of almost surround it or comfort it or something. I don't know, the sense I'm getting is,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's almost like not so much an obstacle as it's just a stepping stone on the way and you're there to acknowledge it or something.
Yeah, because I can even vaguely feel that mat like underneath those, but I know, like I feel and I know based on the feeling that it's underneath the resources,
Right.
like it's below the resources,
Right.
like
So-
not as much of an obstacle, but not like I forgot about it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it looks like it's part of a journey, like
Yeah.
one of the stepping stones over there. Does that, am I saying that correctly? Does that feel right, or?
Yeah, it definitely in terms of a journey in the sense that they're overlaid, and like I'm acknowledging the whole journey and not like
Right,
forgetting that part
exactly.
of it.
Yeah, that's an important part.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's part, it got you where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. So what I'd like you to do now, step off of those mats and just tell me, looking at those mats from outside, do you get a sense of what they are, those two resources?
Yeah, I mean, even right when I pulled it, when I saw that one, it was breathing, like, and how
Yeah.
impactful breathing is in terms of just like, I think remaining present and really being able to focus on what matters and not let your mind kind of scatter off into so many different directions that
Right.
distract you from your purpose
Right.
and why you're here and what your goals are.
So that mat would represent presence and focus and really being in the present moment.
Yeah, via
Yeah.
breathing.
only happens in the present moment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And what about this mat? Do you get a sense about what that represents?
Like affirmations
Mm-hmm.
in a broad sense. Like when I first pulled it, I knew it was affirmations, and one of the ones that I thought of was related to like the comment section, because it's such a big deal now in like whether you're doing YouTube videos or a blog or something, everyone's got comment sections open, and so much of people's negativity and fear come out online because they feel safe. They're sitting behind a computer with nobody that they can offend like face to face, and so they have no problem just speaking their mind and letting all their demons out on your page or on your video. And for like initially it was a huge obstacle for me, like that feedback, those I guess lack of affirmations in a way, but that negative feedback was a huge obstacle. And I feel like I've gotten over that because I've tried to only focus on, or just remain focused on, the more constructive comments that are made, and not just even online or in like a digital forum, but even, you know, face to face.
Comments,
like,
yeah.
Thinking back to like junior high days and stuff, and people would like talk about each other behind their backs, you know, just like that, just learning to realize that it's not to take it personally. It's usually them trying to work out their own demons.
Right.
And I'm coming to own that more, but I think it's a huge resource, like knowing that
Exactly.
is a big resource.
Right.
That it's like, it's not necessarily me.
It's
Like
not
I don't
you.
have to make their problems mine.
Exactly. Right. So what I'd like you to do now is just kind of circulate around all of these mats and see if there are any changes you want to make, moving anything around, anything at all.
I want this gone. I said I wanted it there to like remember, but I want it gone now.
Mhm.
And then-
Okay, so I'd like you to stand on the mats that you started out with in any way that you want to stand, and tell me what it's like now, where you've moved to. Because you've obviously moved.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very like light pink, almost like it doesn't exist anymore. Like it's there,
Mhm.
but it's not emotionally impactful.
Uh-huh.
It's just, it just is.
Right. So the it that you're talking about is just like where you're at with one-on-one and group communication, and you're just where you're at.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I am where I am, and that's okay.
Right.
Like not bad, not good. It just is.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'd like you to step into the resources and tell me what it's like to be there now.
Pretty similar. If
Yeah.
anything, it's like a little bit deeper in a way. Like there's a little bit more emotion to it, but kind of similar. Like when I step back in these, I felt the 2 blocks come back on my feet again though.
Uh-huh.
Which is kind of interesting. Yeah, so it's like I have those like gray, strong blocks, like cement blocks on my feet, but the rest of me is like, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
And do those blocks give you strength or security or?
yeah,
Yeah, right,
yeah,
exactly.
it's almost like I feel like I can move better, but I
Right.
feel like I'm, again, not gonna just
Fall
lose
over.
myself in
Yeah.
anything.
Exactly. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is step aside and then come around to your goal again, and see what it's like to stand on your goal of one-on-one communication that has empathy and connectedness to it, where you really feel the other person's feelings, so to speak, and
Yeah, like as soon as I stepped on it, I was able to take a big breath, so it's just, it's relaxed.
Mhm.
It's deep and it's strong, but it's relaxed at the same time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then how about that last mat? This is group communication, media, getting ideas out there, sharing them.
This is like a huge exhale. Like,
Ah.
whew, like this is, like I feel accomplished, but grateful at the same time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and like I was, being of service, I think that's the big thing.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's where it's that relief, like I was actually, because I feel like you're put on this planet to contribute in a positive way.
Right.
And I feel like this is supposed to be a big way that I do it. So I think that exhale is just whew, being relieved that I'm able to get to a place where I'm satisfied with that, I
Yeah.
suppose.
And feel comfortable there and.
Yeah.
You're
Like
relaxed.
yeah, like I'm cool here.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is just kind of circumambulate around that configuration to just really take it in. You're going to have a video of this,
Yeah.
so you'll be able to see it. And you've moved quite a ways here from where you were to this configuration, and this is something you can remember. Yeah. And you know what it feels like to be at your goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or even better, almost like transcended the goal and like you're almost just looking back at this point, like in the future.
Exactly.
Back on
Yeah,
it.
it's kind of a fast forward to the future.
Yeah,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's kind of a time warp.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here.